PowHER TV, lifestyle and leadership integrated, building a stronger nation, one woman at a time.
We've all wondered what it would be like to live a life without boundaries. What would I do? Where would I live? How would I live? If my life could be anything, what would I want it to be? That's a very big and scary thought, especially when just surviving takes so much energy. But you know, every big journey starts with just one small step. And if I can take a small step in a big journey, actually decide that I am in charge, then what? I'm Kate Bergen. This is PowHER TV. On today's show, Wanetta Beal, a bucket list crusher with a determination to not just survive, but to thrive and reach heights she couldn't have imagined for herself before she decided to create the life she wanted to live. Move Me, Jody Jackson, golf and performance coach. Hiking, it's good for the body, mind, and soul. Fuel Me, Sherry Strong, food philosopher, chef, and nutritionist. We are meant to eat together. Fuel up with friends. And finally, our note to self.
Ask myself, if I could not fail, what would I do?
Steely Springham, inspirational conversationalist and coach, brings it all home, moving from inspiration into action. PowHER TV, this is what happens when Canadian women making an impact in sport, business, the arts, and community leadership come together. Inspire me. Inspiration comes from many different sources. I think it's safe to say that there are as many sources for inspiration as there are people in the world. Sometimes it's success and accomplishment that propels us forward, and sometimes it's fear. For Wanetta Beal from Vancouver Island, it's both. We're celebrating you today, Wanetta. Thank you for being here. Many of us have bucket lists. I've been fortunate enough to cross a few of them off my list. There's a couple remaining, a hot air balloon and a trip to Greece, and perhaps they'll both happen at the same time. Wanetta is now working on her second bucket list. The first one was completed in May of 2015, and it had some 300 items on it. She has run a marathon on the Great Wall of China. She has competed in 3 back-to-back Ironman triathlons, the only woman to do so, and she's cycled a bicycle across Canada. Your mom was a huge motivation for you. She died when she was 41. What did she say to you before she died?
She said, never settle for anything less than goosebumps, and to go and do everything she never had a chance to do. And she actually made me promise to go and ride a camel in Egypt.
Which you did?
Which I totally did with my husband and my stepson and my niece, yeah. And I realized at that point when she said that I totally had been settling. You know,
what does settling feel like? What did it feel like to you to settle?
Not fulfilling any of my dreams and not living my passion and feeling lethargically flat and dead inside.
I think what we should share with people is that you were a size 20.
Yep.
You were 24 pounds. Were you scared to have dreams because you thought that you physically couldn't do them?
Totally, yeah. And I was also diagnosed in my early 20s as being manic depressive, which that's what it was called then. Now it's bipolar disorder. And in and out of the psychiatric ward, and just a feeling of hopelessness all the time, and many suicide attempts, not cries for help, but real serious ones. And I never thought it was possible. You know, I was always sick and tired, you know, and had irritable bowel syndrome. I was not a healthy individual in my early 20s, for sure.
You're describing yourself, because looking at you here now, how did you get from there to here? What were some of the steps, the small steps? Because I'm sure there's people out there who are thinking that they are helpless or hopeless and can't find hope to follow their dreams. What did you do at the beginning?
I think the big thing was making a decision to actually wanting to live and being on the planet.
And by live, you mean
Yeah.
celebrate life and enjoy it, not just survive it.
Totally, and that's what I used to do. I just completely was in survival mode. It wasn't about thriving, it was making it through each day. So it was making the commitment to actually go out there and have a life.
And was that something that you said in your head to yourself? Did you write it down? Do you remember what those words were, that commitment?
It was an internal decision for sure.
Right.
And it was wanting to make my mom proud. It really was, and it didn't come like as soon as she died. I went through huge mourning. You know, I gained a ton of weight, you know, after she passed away, and felt like a victim, and why me, and all this kind of stuff. And then it was, yeah, it was just this internal decision that I made that enough was enough.
Where do you start with something like that?
It's literally getting yourself out of bed in the morning. That's where I had to start. You know, with being so sick, that's how I had to take it. It was literally sometimes one minute at a time, 1 hour at a time.
And then how did you keep going after that? So you're now you've made it out of bed.
Yeah.
Do you celebrate that within yourself?
Yeah, it would be like, okay, here you go. You've made it this far. Now what's next? So not only staying in the present, but thinking, okay, so what can I do, you know, that's going to move me forward. So I would ask myself this question a lot of times: is this going to, you know, move me backwards, or is this going to put me forwards towards what I say I want?
Such as, like an example of that, eat the ice cream,
Totally.
or right.
It's something as small as that, right? Like, okay, is this donut going to help me to reach my goal, or isn't it? And it wasn't like this fast, you know, diet thing that happened for me. It took me 1.5 years in order to lose my weight, and
Did you even know what the goal was that you were working towards? Because you'd never felt like that before. So you couldn't say, I want this,
No.
because you didn't know what this was.
No.
You'd only had that.
true enough. Yeah.
So the end goal was just not being tired.
Yeah.
Not
and
being
not being
sick.
sick. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you celebrate when you did get out of bed and when you did resist that ice cream? How did you celebrate the success that you had in that?
I was huge on rewards. Huge. So I
Not
was
ice cream, though.
Not ice cream. Yeah, it was rewarding myself with non-food items. So it could be, well, for instance, I remember when I was at my heaviest, it was like, okay, I'm going to reward myself with a pedicure, because when you're that large, it's kind of tough to give yourself a pedicure. So I would treat myself to that, or it would be a book that I wanted, or then I started getting into a little bit bigger rewards, like, okay, I'm going to buy myself a brand new bike, and oh, I'm going to buy myself this outfit. So it was like I was always going for the carrot rather than always being motivated by fear, although I always kept that in the back of my mind, is remembering where I came from. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't remember how it felt, because that also propels me forward. I don't use it in a negative way. I use it to help me.
Okay. Excellent. More with Wanetta Beal after this.
Welcome to Move Me. I am Jody Jackson, and today I am going to be talking about one of the most ancient ways of moving with our own 2 feet. Now, speaking of ancient, one of my favorite characters of all time is a very strong, independent woman named Ayla. She belonged to the Cro-Magnon humans, and she can be found in the Earth's Children series by Jean Aul, the first book being The Clan of the Cave Bear. Now, Ayla didn't have many options in terms of movement. She only had her 2 feet to walk the landscapes and survive. Now, fast forward to today, and we're in a very different world. Basically, we do a lot of sitting, too much sitting. We're sitting in our vehicles, we're sitting at our desks and tables, and at the end of the day, we most likely sit on our couches and watch TV. Unfortunately, this has really wreaked havoc on our health. So I want you to join me in a hashtag movement, and let's get out there and start walking. Now, I've got a few goodies to share with you, and I'm going to start first of all with footwear. I'm wearing some great hiking boots, and these little beauties have been up the Nepalese mountains and the Himalayas, and they're about to go out to Peru and hike the Inca Trail. I look for support, stability, and comfort when I'm buying my shoes. Other options out there are more of a running shoe type, or a lightweight shoe, hiking shoe. And this is very common for those local trails if you don't want to put on the big leather boots. But my preference is leather. It molds to your feet. The other thing that's really important is to layer. Again, my favorite layer is merino wool. It's wicking, it's actually odorless, and you can take layers off. I've got an outer shell today, just in case the weather turns a little sour. But those are really important to include in your repertoire to keep comfortable and warm. The last thing you want to do is be a little chilly and not get out there because of that. Other things that are important are backpacks. I've got kind of an ancient one like Ayla might have worn. I love my leather, but there's also other options like our lightweight backpacks that can fit, you know, just a few snacks or some water. Again, I've got some water hooked onto me. It's really important. And you can even get backpacks that have a little nozzle that you can drink water as you're moving along. You can also see that I'm using hiking sticks, and a lot of women have upper body issues with regards to strength. So I find if I'm using my hiking sticks, I'm actually building up some muscle in my upper body, which is great, and it supports me along my way. So whether you're choosing to walk, hike, trek, maybe it's just a stroll, a saunter, or wade, the most important thing is to keep moving, folks, and join me in that hashtag movement, because motion is lotion. Thanks for joining me today, and enjoy the hike.
We're celebrating Wanetta Beal today, Iron Woman, excellent series facilitator, and bucket list crusher. A woman who will settle for nothing less than goosebumps. Chatting on the phone in preparation for today, you said that the things you do literally cause you to either throw up or poop your pants. And is that was before?
Oh no, that still happens for sure. Except
Literally every time you're.
oh yeah, definitely.
So what does this look like? You're getting prepared to ride your bike across Canada.
Oh man, so I have a courage scale.
A courage scale.
A courage scale.
Okay.
And it's 0 to 5 is like a lay down. It's easy.
And
then,
what would be a lay down for you?
It's almost like something to just kind of check off the list, like, oh, I got to go do a training run, or something like that. But then there's like a 6 to 8, which is a moderate risk to failure. Even though I don't think there's anything as failure, it's only feedback. But 6 to 8, and then there's the 9 to 10, and that's like the high risk. That's scary. That's like poop your pants scary.
And why do you like that? What do you get out of that?
It's chargy. I have a need, I guess, for intense excitement, and I know that it's in that upper part of the comfort zone where I really feel alive. And it's where I know that I'm growing. So every time I'm up there, I learn more and more about myself. So I'm pushing. Not only pushing my limits, but I learn more about myself.
And you can apply that to the world of physical activity and working out in the gym. When you're just outside of your comfort zone and pushing your comfort zone, that's where the change happens. So it happens physically and it happens mentally.
Yeah, on every level. And it doesn't have to be just physically. I've set goals where, I'm going to go and do a silent meditation retreat. And for me, like being quiet for 3 days was scary for me, right? So it can be on every level. Like for instance, the first time I was about to lead the advancement of excellence, it was the morning of. I was totally prepared, and I was literally feeling sick. And I pooped my pants. Like I
shouldn't laugh.
I know, but it actually happened.
And it actually happened.
It actually happened, and I was like, I wanted to run. The acronym for fear, right?
Go ahead.
Okay, everything and run. That was me. I just wanted to bolt.
But you didn't.
I didn't, because I knew I had people counting on me, and I had put myself in the position before that, okay, this is not the first time you've been scared. You're gonna get through it.
Right.
So just follow through.
So something that's, say, a 2 on your courage scale today, rewind 15 years, and that 2 maybe would have been an 8 or a 10.
Oh, definitely.
And where does that growth come from? Like how do you, what got you, like, I guess it's the continually being out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, pushing the limits all the time. Like a 2 for me was actually going from sedentary to getting active again.
Right.
Like it was, I remember my first 5K walk-run program. I was terrified. What are people going to think about me? And, what are people going to say when they see a big girl running and all this kind of stuff? And the 2 things that's really required to get out of your comfort zone is having a strong support team. So having people who will hold you as able to say, okay, Wanita, this is what you said's most important to you. Like, get going. They'll help you to buck up, especially when things get tough, right? So I have an amazing support team, and I've gotten to work at setting that up, because I used to think support was for wimps, and now it's
Crucial.
It's crucial. You know, I wouldn't be doing the things that I do today.
How many people on your support team? Can it be 1? Can it be 5? It can be whatever you want it to be, right?
I have many, and for different things, I have different people for that support. You know, my husband's one of my biggest support people, and he's there basically for every area, but, you know, physically I have training partners, and, you know, for my career, I have other mentors and support. So it's making sure that that support is set up. And then the second thing that I've always found really crucial is making sure that I have a really strong, clear purpose. So why is it important for me to face my fear, especially when I'm going to poop my pants or throw up or want to bolt? So being really, really clear on that.
And you have different purpose and different clarity in different segments of your life.
Totally.
How you show up and who you show up as in work is quite different than who you show up as in your marriage.
For sure.
And you have clear purpose in each one of those areas.
Yeah, I call that like my situational purpose. So, you know, what's my purpose in my relationship? So, you know, with my husband, it's, you know, I want to have this loving, strong, intimate, committed relationship with him. So, you know, so I head into that situation with a particular purpose, and then here's my career, and this is my purpose there, and then, you know, this is what my calling is, so how am I going to step into that? So when I'm really focused in on that, I let that be bigger than my fear.
Nice.
Yeah.
We'll be back one more time with Wanetta Beal. You're watching PowHER TV.
We are meant to eat together. The social context in which we eat is as powerful as what we're eating. I'd much rather have a greasy bowl of noodles with people who are kind, positive, loving, and upbuilding than to have the most gourmet, nutritiously prepared meal with people who are angry, depressed, and negative. I'm guessing you would too. But here's the thing. Imagine having food that tastes great and that it was nourishing your body and that you had great conversations at the table while you were having it. We know that happiness now is actually linked to social connection, and addiction is definitely linked to social connection. So the more we separate and eat in front of our computers and televisions and away from one another, the more disconnected we feel, and it's a big driver towards addiction. I also say in my book, addiction is the body's way of not listening to your soul. And we are craving to be together. We're craving to be with one another. And Shauna Core, happiness researcher, is telling us that a child that's predisposed to depression and negativity, just by at the evening meal sharing 3 things that they're grateful for, you can change a child who's predisposed to depression into a lifelong optimist just by doing that. And sharing meals with people is a really powerful way to connect. The other way that we can actually connect is by preparing meals together. And this is really important because not only will you be skilling people, your children, for the future to be able to take care of themselves, you are going to share something that's really powerful in the connection of not only preparing the meal, but sharing it with other people. The French have a proverb that says, where love sets the table, food tastes its best. And one of the things I know about deficiencies when it comes to vitamins is we are deficient on the #1 vitamin of vitamin L and vitamin love. And the table is a great way to actually share our love with one another, not just with the foods that we cook, but eating with people who we love and respect, who love and respect food and who love and respect us. Eat with people who love to cook and eat with their hands and lick their bowl. Do you remember your mom making a cake and licking the bowl and how wonderful that made you feel? Eat with children and people who aren't afraid to make a mess. You know, eat with your hands, lick your fingers, that kind of thing. Eat with purity of intention and sincerity of heart. Eat after the perspiration of a rigorous jog, an invigorating walk, or in the lusty afterglow of rolling the hay. It's much healthier than a cigarette. Eat with people who tell wonderful stories and jokes that don't hurt. Eat with people who are kind and non-judgmental and who can forgive, people who can see both sides of the story. Eat with people who are genuinely interested in you and the world around you. And please, when you eat all of these things with all of these people, set your table with love. And if you'd like more tips, tools, strategies, and recipes to help you develop a powerful relationship with food, your body, and the planet, go to returntofood.com.
Endurance. How far can you go? How long can you last? What keeps you going? That's something that Wanetta Beal knows about. She's done 3 Ironman triathlons in 3 days. She's cycled across Canada and lives a life full of high-end excitement and adventure. I think endurance applies, though, to much more than a triathlon. Do you think about the concept of endurance as you go through your everyday life?
Oh, completely. I mean, life is about endurance.
How so?
Well, because we never know what's going to come down the pipe.
And you've had it all come down the pipe.
You know, all the biggies, you know, death, divorce, financial loss, you name it, I've been there. And
you can go through life kind of like letting every one of those things
bog you down.
Yeah.
And it's really about making a choice.
A choice
to either keep moving or to let life beat you down. And quitting's not an option for me.
Well, it used to be that isn't working for you.
Yeah, of course. And then it's time to redirect and do something different, right? But quitting's just not an option, because I've been in that place where I wanted to quit and I did give up. So now I do the rocking chair test.
What's that?
So what I've noticed, we've had actually a lot of people in our lives in the last few years pass away. And you know, in talking to a lot of these people I've been really close to, it's not in the things that they regret, but rather the things that they regret that they didn't get a chance to do. So I often ask myself, you know, when I'm 80 or 90 years old and I'm on that rocking chair, what am I going to regret not doing? You know, do I want to spend, you know, the time you know, watching Netflix in bed with popcorn and so forth. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but do I want to, you know, not pursue going after what it is that I'm meant to do on this planet? And sometimes that can be scary and overwhelming, but...
You have people that come into your gym and they're at the early stages of changing their life, maybe where you were 15 years ago.
20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
What do you tell them? What do you see in them that keeps them stuck, and how do you unstick them?
How do I unstuck? How do I unstuck them? Usually it's about shifting their mind frame.
Right.
And I ask them, like, especially when they're in that complaining phase of, oh, I can't do this, and you know, my life sucks, and blah blah blah, and they're being real victim-y and feeling sorry for themselves.
You hear that a lot?
Yeah, for sure. I let them have that moment for, you know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, let them vent, and then I shift the conversation into what is it that you do want. So if it were impossible to fail, what is it that you want?
That's scary.
It is.
That's
it
very
is for
scary.
people. But what it does is it shifts their brain into thinking, oh, yeah, what is it that I do want? And then I just tell them it's one little step at a time. It's chip, chip, chip. It literally is. It's one incremental choice at a time. And two, I really believe that if I can do it, anybody can do it. You know, I've been medication free now, like off of lithium for 14 years. Last month it was 14 years. And I was always told, you'll be on that for the rest of your life. And, you know, with setting up proper...
And you could have chosen to believe that.
Totally.
And maybe for a while you did.
And I did. It wasn't until, you know, my husband, who I'm with now, said that there's another choice, there's another option, there's another way of doing this, right? And I went to work at changing that. So it meant shifting my beliefs and owning and getting behind another truth.
And what's your truth now? That anything is possible?
Anything's possible.
Do you relapse? Do you catch yourself going back to that old way of thinking? How do you get yourself out of that place then?
Support.
Right.
Support. I'm human. And
you can be very honest and go up to your husband or another person in your support circle and say, I'm thinking this.
Yep. I've fallen off the wagon a little bit. I need your help. So let's go out for a walk. I need help to get back on track, and my team is there for me. Yeah.
Okay, one of the things we do, thank you for sharing so openly today. One of the things we do here on PowHER TV is ask you to select a Power Bite from our turtle.
Okay.
So I'm just going to ask you to choose one that finds itself in your hands and then read it out loud, and we will end our time together on that.
Okay.
We didn't know the turtle was going to be used for this, but
Okay.
it's a very fun part of the show.
All right, so it says, powerful women cultivate a culture of kindness, generosity, and love.
A support circle.
Yeah.
Nice.
There is power in perception. I didn't think I could have dreams. Never thought it was possible. And then one day it started. It started by saying, enough is enough. Just get out of bed. Celebrate life just as it is right now. Take it 1 minute at a time. And there it was. The choice. The choice to do something different. To never, ever settle again. The choice to shift my internal dialogue and speak another truth. Choose courage. Face my fears. Ask myself, if I could not fail, what would I do? What will I regret not doing? And what if I choose to live, not just survive? You know, life is not a race. It's endurance. I commit to thrive 1 step at a time. Note to self. I commit to thrive.